The elements. We experience the elements firsthand, as well as their end results. Dr. Hall, who was my superior in Shaughnessy Hospital, was sent to Cadomin. It was his first assignment after graduation, a locum to relieve Dr. Beggs. His impression of Cadomin was that the only reason anyone lived there was because they didn't know any better. I suggested he may have thought differently if he had stayed there a little longer. A massive forest fire swept through the area before the mine came to be. All through the Whitehorse area and the McLeod Valley and down through the Draw, one can see the charred deadfall and the relatively new growth. The first mine entry started in 1912 on the east side, caught fire in 1919, and is actually still burning to this day. In the winter, one can see steam rising out of the caves, and the grass remains green at sub-zero weather. On the internet, it's referred to as the Eternal Fire. After the fire on the east side, the company drove at least 3 entries on the west side of the river before sinking the shaft. The Cadomin Coal Company developed the pillar system, where the main entry and counters are driven into the rock. At certain intervals, crosscuts to the coal seam are driven. Panels are then developed by driving raises or angles close to any surface or old workings. When the coal in the panel has been all mined, they can seal the panel off. If it catches fire, the whole mine is not lost. Pocahontas Mine was lost to a fire caused by spontaneous combustion like the Cadomin East Side Mine and many others. In 1923, fire swept down on the town, driven by the Cadomin breeze. The fire parted south of the mine and went down both sides of the valley, not touching the downtown area, in a phenomenon the newspaper referred to as providentially splitting. East of the tracks and heading for Leland, took out 2 rooming houses and the general store. Above the tipple near the last entry, several residents had built homes. Dick Craig, one of the homeowners, had just bought a new white stove. While trying to save his new possession from the impending disaster, it became lodged in the doorway. Unable to move the stove forward or back, the house and all its contents had to be abandoned, and everything was lost. During the fire, all the women and children were moved to the bathhouse, where the sheet of iron roof was kept hosed down. On the other side of the tracks, below the Cadomin station, Mr. H.O. Harper, who had just become principal of the new school, and other residents moved furniture from their homes closer to the river in an effort to save it. The fire, carried by a stiff wind, missed the houses and burned up all the furniture. As Jock and Mrs. McLaren headed north towards Leland, she went into labor and delivered Ian McLaren in a boxcar while Jock hosed the car down. Talking to Ian, he later revealed that the town's doctor had abandoned them. That gutless son of a bitch, Ian called him, but perhaps he doesn't have an objective opinion. Mrs. McLaren was the town's midwife and nurse. She delivered me, my brother, and nearly everyone else who was born in Cadomin. Another memorable fire had raged in the 1920s that was called the Bucket of Blood. Many people mention the incident, but few remember many details. Doreen Ferguson and Ed Madams supplied most of the information about it. The Bucket of Blood was a shady bootlegging joint during Prohibition. Situated north of the railroad crossing heading to Luscar and south of the dairy, it was, some said, how this place got its name. I'm told Tom Watson was employed there. After fire destroyed the place, a new gambling house called the Dugout was built, and Mrs. Modowin's house. Come to think of it, we had more than our fair share of fires in Cadomin. I remember a rooming house across from the tracks by the Cadomin station going up in flames. Twice our mercantile and the service station were consumed. The last time the service station caught fire, the future of the coal branch didn't look good, and it was decided not to rebuild. The Black Beetle, a Black Druid rooming house and beer parlor, went up in flames during that night. What a bonfire. There was a tailor shop down by Matheson's and Sardis houses that went up in flames, helped along by the Cadomin breeze. The last big fire in my memory was the rooming house, where I stoked the furnace as a lad. The fires were certainly destructive, but the Cadomin winds were something else.